Hi, I'm Ingrid Whitaker. It's Super Bowl Sunday and the event you've been waiting for. The Week 6 recap of Ethan and Ingrid's 48 State Big Year is finally here. As a special treat this week, we bring you some very cool non-bird species as well. As expected after our booming first day in Florida, the pace of new birds slowed, but we did not. Despite 2 days of steady rain and wind, both of which make songbirds hunker down much like us humans, we were determined to find what we could. The variety of shorebirds and wading birds in Florida were a help here, as they are less bothered by bad weather. The first days of the week were spent in the vicinity of Cape Canaveral. Unfortunately, several of our destinations turned out to be gated or otherwise private communities. To know that the bird you are seeking may be waiting just on the other side of that wall. That Egyptian goose feeding on a pondside lawn in Melbourne, forget it. Despite these obstacles, we managed to tick off an average of 8 to 12 new birds each day. On Wednesday, February 6th, we packed up Great Auk. That's right, we named our Subaru Outback after an extinct bird, and headed for Homestead, Florida, just north of the Everglades. On the way, we found a flock of gray-headed swamp hens, an awkward yet beautiful rail. Ethan insists on calling them gray-headed swamp things. It's going to be a long year. On Thursday, before heading into the Everglades, we ventured out to find a common myna, a species native to India and Southeast Asia. Common mynas were brought to the USA as caged birds for their beauty and their mimicry. A few mynas have escaped into the wild and established a breeding community around Miami, and are thus countable big-ear birds. We found two walking on a lawn in an urban area of nearby Homestead. The Everglades, while providing stunning vistas, were a bit disappointing from the birding perspective. Perhaps we were in the wrong places or just unlucky. The reptiles were cool, but birds were hard to find. We did see a mangrove cuckoo, however, one of our target birds. Next, we traveled across the state to Fort Myers and began the search for our next target bird. Some birds are almost handed to us. We see a report, we go to the location, and the bird is right there. Almost too easy. But then we remember the birds who make us wonder why we continue this silly sport, like the Wilson's plover. What we thought was going to be a pretty quick drive up, park, and walk a little ways down the beach turned into a 2-mile hike across a beach full of sunbathers, partiers, and dogs. We felt out of place and looked it. So much so that one beachgoer asked us if we worked for National Geographic. There were a few birds about, but not the Wilsons. We kept walking and scanning, and finally found the bird across a mudflat at the extent of our binoculars. Not the most satisfying view, but one more tick. Back in Fort Myers, we of course had to go see our beloved Boston Red Sox spring training facility. Speaking of baseball, we stopped at a Little League field in Fort Myers hoping to find burrowing owls that nest near the playing fields. We pulled into the parking lot and immediately saw 4 burrowing owls staring at us. A minute later, we heard some cackling and looked up to see several monk parakeets building a nest. They are noisy, social birds. No wonder a group of parakeets is called a chatter. Sometimes big-ear birding is really easy. Sometimes. In the evening, we took a tourist pontoon boat out into the bay to see dolphins playing at sunset, and also because the boat was pausing at Black Skimmer Island, the new home of another rare flock of flamingos that were blown north from Cuba by Hurricane Idalia. We saw 11 birds, mostly juveniles, but so close we could almost touch them. The sunset and dolphins were spectacular, and as we were pulling into the harbor, we were treated with 2 more first-of-the-year birds that were coming in to roost for the night. A yellow-crowned night heron and a black-crowned night heron. Neither are particularly rare birds, but sighting them was a nice end to the day. Today we are birding in the Miami area looking for exotics, basically pet birds originally from Asia and South America that have escaped or been released and have established their own breeding colonies. Tomorrow, we begin a long drive to the Rio Grande area of Texas for the next leg of our adventure. There will be many rest stops along the way, and with a little luck, some interesting birds to add to our year list. And those elusive Egyptian geese hiding from us in gated communities? We finally found a flock of 7 at a public golf course. We hope you will follow our blog at bigearbirding.com. Happy birding!